Hello guys and welcome back. Now in one of the previous videos we saw that there are essentially three directives that we have for template driven forms. One of them we have already used, that is the ng model directive. There are two more directives of this sort. One of them is the ng model group and the other one is the NgForm. In this video we are going to use the NgForm directive, but instead of using it as this, we are going to assign it to something as a value. Okay, to do that we will be creating a template variable named say user form, and to the value of this user form, now we can do this as well, that we can assign something to template variables, so that instead of doing, let's say we don't assign anything as of now to the form, and just on the submit we pass in the user form itself. And then let's copy this and go to the new user component and just log this user form in here. So if I save this and go back and just click on the submit button, then the form submitted would be printed. But apart from that, I simply get the raw tags of this form. Okay, but I wanted a JavaScript representation instead of this, right? And so to get the JavaScript representation, I'll need to use a directive named NgForm, right? Let's say if we simply pass this, let's just keep this as such, and we pass in the NgForm in here and save this now and go back. If I click on the submit, then I get undefined right now. Okay, so again this is not working like this. What if I assign this NgForm to the user form template variable that I have, and let's, instead of passing the NgForm, because Angular doesn't really know from having a look at this markup right here that there is something named NgForm. It just knows that if there is a template variable, then that is something that can be passed, but NgForm is something that it doesn't really have any idea about at this point. What we can do instead is we can pass this NgForm directive as a value to the user form, and then when we send the user form instead of the NgForm and submit it, then we get the NgForm object, and this is the JavaScript representation of our form itself. It has a lot of things like the controls, and this has a controls object that contains all the form controls that we have inside our form, like the email name, phone, username, and website. And if I go out of the controls, then we also have some of the properties like dirty, disabled, enabled, then invalid, pending, pristine, and touched, untouched, valid, and a value as well. Now if I open up the value object, then we can see that there are a lot of fields, or the fields that we had inside this form, the form controls that we had, these are all the values of these form controls, and the keys here are the names of these inputs, while the values are right now empty because these are all the input fields and the default value of any input field is empty. So empty strings are assigned to these values inside the value object. And apart from that, we have some pairs, like say for example disabled and enabled is a pair. So if at once if enabled is true, then disabled is going to be false. Then we have dirty and pristine. These are also pairs. So if both of them are opposite of each other, so if one of them is false, then the other one was going to be true. And same is the case with touched and untouched. So if touched is false, then untouched is going to be true. Okay, so these are all the different fields that we will be going to use when we are implementing, say for example, form validations and things like disabling the submit button when the form is invalid, or say for example uh, showing a field validation error when a particular field is invalid in that case. Okay, so we'll have a look at all these scenarios in the coming videos. So I'll see you guys in the next one.